Well, I think there's one team right now in the league that's realistic that goes from playoff contender to Super Bowl contender just by landing the services of Stafford. It's the Minnesota Vikings. They, to me, are absolutely a Super Bowl contender if they can pull off a trade and get Matthew Stafford from LA to Minnesota. I try to do the deal, by the way, if I am Minnesota. Because you look right now, this team, they are built to win right now, right? You have the best wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison came on this year and I thought did a really good job at kind of filling that number 2 role. They have Aaron Jones, who, when he's healthy, is a pretty solid running back, a solid offensive line protecting the quarterback up front. And you have a defense right now led by Brian Flores, who's coming back next year, that was top 5 in points per game allowed, sacks, turnover differential. 3 of the most important key stats here when it comes to winning games and especially come playoff time, winning playoff games. They are set to win right now. So when you look at Minnesota and the direction they can go in, I don't think it makes the most sense for them with Stafford potentially out there for them to bypass that option to either re-sign Sam Darnold, who is probably commanding, let's say, similar money that you would pay Stafford, 40, 45, $50 million a year. I'm assuming that's what Darnold is looking for. I'm assuming that's also what Stafford's looking for as well. So for the same price, for the most part, I know Darnold's a lot younger, but for roughly the same price, you can get a guy that you don't have to worry about come playoff time. You have to worry about Sam Darnold if you sign him to a big deal, no matter who you are, about his play in the postseason, because the 2 biggest games of the year we saw from Minnesota, he totally choked. Held onto the ball too long, got sacked a million times, especially in that Rams game. Darnold has to prove he can elevate his game in the postseason the way he did in the regular season. He hasn't proven that yet. So it's a gigantic risk. So if you're Minnesota, why risk bringing back Darnold when you can go try to trade for Stafford and a guy who is a proven winner, who's a proven big game player, who has a ring on his finger? Why not bring that guy into a team ready to win right now and capitalize on another 2 or 3 year window? And the other option for Minnesota, right, if it's not going to be Sam Darnold, it's going to be J.J. McCarthy, the guy they drafted in the first round last year, who, because of injury, with having that knee surgery early on in the preseason, missed the entire. I mean, he was not going to play anyway with how well Darnold played, right? But he missed the entire year anyway and was not on the scout team, was not taking any reps, was just rehabbing after the knee surgery. So he's now a guy who's a rookie who's had no practice really whatsoever outside of a few OTAs and early training camp practices. Do you really want to now give him the keys coming off a year in which you won 14 games and hope that he does well? Hope that he hits the ground running? Hope that he can prove to be your franchise guy? Or would you rather have a known commodity when it comes to Matthew Stafford? I'd much rather have a known commodity in Stafford than trot out a rookie, unknown, gigantic question mark in McCarthy, where even though Kevin O'Connell talks about how high he is on J.J. McCarthy, how excited he is, how much a team believes in him, it's more likely that McCarthy flops, and fails than it does hit. Right? Most first-round quarterbacks are busts. They don't work out. They need to go elsewhere if they end up working out to a different situation. So even though this is a situation and an offense and a coach that's better than most first-round picks would have, there's no guarantee. And again, it's more of a likelihood McCarthy's not good than he is good. So the roster ready to win right now, that won 14 games in the regular season, that was 1 win away from having the NFC run through Minnesota. When you're that close and have that much momentum, wouldn't you rather go all in and say, you know what, we're going to go for it right now? Our fans have never seen a Super Bowl victory. There's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback out there. Let's go get him. How can you not take that risk? Put your chips in. I got some poker here on the TV in the studio. All in. Put your chips in the middle of the table and say, we're going to bring in Matthew Stafford because we're going to try to win a Super Bowl right now. And also, by the way, what helps the transition for Stafford and prevent this from being the Kirk Cousins in Atlanta situation from last year is on top of the fact that I think Stafford's just a better quarterback than Cousins, in a better place physically than Cousins was coming off of the torn Achilles. You also have the fact that there's familiarity. Even though Stafford's never played in Minnesota, never played with Justin Jefferson, his head coach and Kevin O'Connell, where was he before he became the Minnesota head coach in 2022? He was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford in 2021, the year they won the Super Bowl. There's familiarity there. There's some continuity there. You can now hit the ground running quicker than you otherwise would by bringing in a new quarterback because you already worked together and by the way, already did it. You won. I think to me it's a no-brainer. If you're Minnesota, that's the team. That's a team that should pull the trigger here, especially when you look at the options Minnesota has. It could be Stafford or Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. Speaking of those options, Kevin O'Connell recently was talking with SiriusXM NFL Radio and talked about the options, Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, when it comes to who could be the Vikings quarterback here in 2025.
We're excited to have a full offseason with him. Still have a possibility of bringing Sam Darnold back. There's all kinds of franchise tags and trying to maybe negotiate a longer-term deal. But I do know this. I think Sam Darnold is the marquee player at the position available in free agency. And if he gets a chance to really see what's out there, I think a lot of teams are going to be hoping to have that kind of production from Sam Darnold for their team. And if that's the case, if that's how it all shakes out, nobody will be more proud than Sam than me.
Look, he's a diplomat, right? So he's not going to reveal his hand, to keep the card analogy going here. He likes J.J. McCarthy. He loves Sam Darnold. Maybe he's back in Minnesota, but if not, he'll be very happy for him wherever he does land and get paid. That was before we knew about the availability of Stafford, before the Rams gave Stafford and his representation the ability to kind of poke their head around and see, okay, what's out there. If you're Minnesota, these opportunities flash few and far between in front of you. I think you got to pounce. Again, the Rams pounced a few years ago when they had the opportunity to move off of Jared Goff, a guy they got to a Super Bowl with, to upgrade for Stafford. If Stafford truly is available, which again, I'm leery of. I'm not buying that he actually is available. I would be shocked if we're talking about anything but Stafford being in LA long-term. Long-term, okay. Short-term here in the next 2 or 3 years. I would be shocked if we're not talking about a new deal coming. If he's actually traded, though, if you're Minnesota, how can you allow him to go anywhere else? Again, look at what's out there. Giants are a team that's very well connected to the Stafford. Hired his brother-in-law. They need a quarterback. They have a pick at number 3 that maybe they'd be forced to give up, or maybe the Rams take the risk of Stafford not coming in and elevating this Giants roster, so maybe you take their 2026 first-round pick. Either way, the Giants have been a team that's been really the most rumored to be interested in trying to trade for Matthew Stafford. If you're the Vikings, not that the Giants are leaping over you with Stafford, not at all, but why wouldn't you go all in? Why wouldn't you give your fans a legitimate opportunity with a real quarterback who's done something before, a chance to go out there and try to win a Super Bowl? I mean, think about it, right? They've had Sam Darnold this year play way better than expected, but when push comes to shove, the biggest moment, right? Sam did not play well, did not come through for them, and their season ended a lot shorter than many fans thought it would. Before that, he replaced Kirk Cousins, who is a very good regular season quarterback, not the best postseason quarterback. And we saw, again, promising Minnesota Vikings regular seasons and prematurely because the quarterback could not elevate his game in the biggest moments. Go back to Case Keenum and that beatdown that they suffered against the Eagles in 2017 in the NFC title game, the last time that they were, that close to a Super Bowl. They got run out of Philly. Minnesota's had good teams before. They've had good regular seasons. They've never, though, had in their recent history a quarterback that could elevate the team in the postseason, Matthew Stafford is that guy. Go for it. Go all in. Get Stafford in purple if he's available. And I think if so, you do become a Super Bowl contender overnight with Matthew Stafford as your quarterback in Minnesota.